All right, and we're back. So we were able to roast that, and let's see how we did. Okay, here I'm in my roast path. Okay, I'll throw it up on the screen for you there. So yeah, our middle phase is quite short. Okay, we didn't even break 3 minutes. That's kind of an issue. But we'll see. Kind of an issue just looking at it, right? What we're going to do is validate what we think, kind of like check our answers, and we're going to cup this bad boy, okay? So I generally executed what I know and have experience with. So I could not really get my ROR to peak that high. That would be using a much higher charge temp, perhaps, and really getting that turning point to hit less than a minute. So my typical turning point on my machine, being a smaller machine, I would think I would be able to get that. So I have a smaller machine. He has a 6K. I have a 1K. I should be able to break under a minute turning point. I think that just means I have to charge higher. Okay. I'm not going to do that anytime soon. Maybe another time when this customer asks again for another dark roast. And it's not paying for it really. It's more like trading coffee for more massage time. So I'm gonna take my time with it. It's not something that, is not really like beckoning me, I guess. I think because I'm really not motivated to like drink this coffee when I have leftovers. I feel in a way, since she's the only one who's requesting it, it just feels a little out of my way, right? So as a business, it feels out of my way. But I'm doing it because it's an opportunity to make content and learn and all that stuff. So I'm not writing it off completely, but I'm also not, moving my schedule around to nail this roast, even though in the end that's going to be our goal. Okay, so I think we did a really good first phase, cool. But yeah, that middle phase, I think the heat, basically, I had first crack at what? I was early, that's right. Now, what I say during that roasting video is an older coffee. It's going to hit numbers just a little bit earlier. So I'm not sure if charging higher would be wise. I would just kind of have to go through it all and just kind of see. But that could be the first thing I could change to get my ROR to have enough energy. Basically, I'm trying to get more energy at the beginning of the roast so that I can have more to play with, have more room to play with as the roast moves along, right? So I think it moved too quickly because my charge temp was too low. These are my assumptions. And I'm not able to maximize that middle phase and get a solid 4 minutes there. I got, in compensation of that, I just elongated my last phase, which that's kind of a lazy way of making dark roast, I'd say, right? We're not maximizing that middle phase, which means in a sort of like really primal or primitive, raw, quick and dirty way of looking at it is like that middle phase is kind of like the inner development of the bean as it's roasting. So I feel like it's most likely going to be underdeveloped when we cup it. So we're probably not going to be getting those caramel notes, those sweet notes, those like really sweet chocolate notes. I think those are going to be missing from our cupping. But in the end, I guess sort of the body will still be there. I don't know. These are all assumptions. So let's cup it. Let's find out. But since we just roasted it and I want to cup it today, and I could cup it tomorrow. I think I could move my schedule around or whatever, make some time to cup it really quick. But what we'll do is we'll grind it. We'll wait like an hour or something. I'll run some errands or do some other task and then come back and cup it. And this is really typical thing that I would see when I was watching and observing real people in the business work. Is like they do this one thing, kind of step over, do another, and they're really kind of multitasking. Just because you have to be as efficient with your time as possible. And I feel like I'm getting in my miles, I'm getting in my practice as I'm doing that, as I prepare to step into a career in coffee. So let's go do that. I don't think the curve is terrible. As I was roasting, and I was like, ah, okay, just my biggest concern is that middle phase. And if we don't get that sweetness in the cup, I'll know I would need to change this roast and really think about charging higher so I could move and have a little bit more wiggle room here, or come down in heat a lot more drastically. Maybe I could keep my charge temp. The next thing I think I could do is come down a lot more after green to yellow transition, and have that curve kind of mirror what we were looking at, which was that really steep downward, so that I could have more room to play with in the end. But in order to do that, I think I might have to do both. Charge higher so I can move longer, I can drive more distance, right? Charge higher, get more energy in the roast, and then come down after green to yellow transition or dry end, come down in my heat application a lot more than I did. I think I came down maybe only to 2 kPa, which made the roast go faster. Okay? I know that's a lot of stuff, but that's a win for me to be able to just say that to you, and I could say, check, 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 that makes sense to me. So that's a win for me as a roaster. Okay, that's my bread. My sourdough's in the oven. Let's take care of it. All right, good. Okay, let's take a look at this. Pulled a little sample here for me. Woo, that's dark. And why not? We're going to cup it with some other of our origins. And I just want to show you the difference. Wow, that's dark. Okay, take a look at that. No! Okay, we got 1,000 hands right here. 1,000 hands is our Ethiopia Yirgacheffe washed process. Mr. Pablo, light roast. Rasuna. All right. Rasuna is our Indonesian Sumatran coffee. Very good coffee. Okay, let's write these down so we don't forget. But yeah, take a look at this. So let's cup these, and we're going to wait. We're going to grind them and let them off gas as much as possible. Since they're ground up, right, and we're just leaving it out there, typically you wouldn't do that, right? You would want to, it's said that after 15 minutes of grinding, coffee goes stale or rancid or whatever it is, right? But since we just roasted it, what we're going to do is grind it and just let it sit for like an hour, because it's too fresh. It's too fresh. It's going to have a lot of maybe things that are masking what we're trying to taste. Okay, so normally we want to wait a day. That's like the industry standard, to wait a day. I don't know what they base that on, right? So since we're at home, we're just going to do kind of like our best to give this coffee a chance to off gas. Now these, it's been, oh, this one's new. Wait, which one's new? This one's new. So these two roasted maybe just 2 days ago. So they're basically ready to cup now. These ones will grind, and then again, we'll let them off gas and sort of just sit there for like 45 minutes to an hour, play little video games, and then come back, or work, probably that's what's going to happen. Come back and we'll cup them, okay? Okay, we're back. So we're going to also cup these, the Rasuna, Mr. Pablo, 1,000 Hands, and then our very, very dark Vietnam. Look at this cupcake. Look at this chocolate cupcake versus these guys. Let's go ahead and clean these guys off. Now that I'm making true to form light roasts, I mean, for the longest time, I was just really not knowing what I was doing, which is fine. You know, when you're learning, that's okay. But I wasn't having any true to form light roasts, which meant I was paying extra for this very special coffee, but not really knowing how to accentuate that or bring that out in the roast. Because a lot of what I thought about roasting was wrong in the beginning, which is why I'm so adamant, I think, about creating coffee nowadays and going like, hey, you got to figure out where the coffee's going to land. There's not one way to roast. Every machine is different. Things like that. Man, this is dark. Like a lot of the these little particles are, the coffee is like coming up. And that's not going to be pleasant to cup. That's pretty good. Okay, let's clean this off. Give ourselves some cleaner water. We're about almost 6 minutes in. Let's go ahead and give these a whirl. So this is dark, right? I would want to put that at the end of the tasting. But whatever. Holy crap. Oh, to me it's terrible. I just would not want to. It's so dark. But you know what? I bought this before. Like I bought this level of roast before. Yeah, I call that French. And for sure, you put some cream and sugar in there, it'll lighten right up. It'll get creamy and chocolatey. The dark chocolate's there. I think it's lacking some sweetness. The body's there for sure. It's pretty syrupy. Roasty. Almost smoky, yeah. I really tried to give this a lot of max fan on the first crack, right? And then we hit second crack at 13 minutes and we dropped it at 13 minutes. So we dropped at second crack. And that's a common practice, I think, for dark roast so that it doesn't go carbon, you know, like black. Black. All right, let's taste something better. Ooh, wow. This must be Thousand Hands. Yes, Ethiopia. The blueberries are beautiful there. Shout out to Nick, who's new on the Omakase Roaster's Choice subscription model. I'm slowly gaining a few of you. I think I can count them on more than one hand now. But I just sent this out to you. This is Ethiopia, 1,000 Hands. 1,000 Hands named because there's 1,000 small farms that contribute to this lot that we have sourced from Hasea Coffee. Blueberry donut. Woohoo! Blueberry donut is beautiful. Let me show you this. I'll link it in the description. You can see what this Ethiopia looks like. 4 minutes 44 on the first phase, 4 minutes 30 on the second phase, and 58 seconds, 9% DTR on the last phase. Dropped it at like 7%, and then it landed, I think, at 9. Probably. Maybe a little bit later than that. Who knows? Because, and who cares even, because in the cup, I'm getting those notes that I'm looking for. Those beautiful blueberries. Blueberry donut. Cool. What is this? Raspberry, milk chocolate, Rasuna? Pablo. Okay. Okay. This one is mellowing out. A lot of chocolate in there kind of coming through. It's kind of open to the air right now, and these are just for my personal cupping. I'm not selling this, but that's what happens, I think, when you leave it kind of like in a bag. It's unsealed. It was just for me to cup and kind of like taste and drink personally. It wasn't giving me that strong wine note because I think the air is getting to it. It's been like 2 to 3 days or something like that. When was it? Oh yeah, it's been like 4 days. 4 days kind of exposed to the air, and it's losing that little bit of that pop. And that's why I thought, is it Rasuna? Because it's tasting a little bit more mellow versus that really bright acidity that you will get with the Mr. Pablo, as long as you store it correctly. That's another thing with coffee. After you've roasted it, you need to now store it correctly so that air doesn't get to it. Sunlight too. Kind of keep it in a nice, kind of treat it like a nice bottle of wine, you know. It loses, okay, so that's an interesting observation to go like, and I kind of knew that already, but I wasn't so, like, I didn't talk to camera about it, so it's not as solidified, I guess, in my memory. But that air exposure is really kind of like mellowing out things. not making things as clear, you know. So if we think as flavor, like on a, you know, kind of like a beet, what air does is sort of like mellow those those spikes out. That's what I'm tasting anyway. That's kind of like what's the images that are forming in my mind when I cup this a day after roasting versus 4 days after roasting, and just letting it kind of be exposed to the air, not sealing it or anything like that. So those are interesting just observations. Still really good coffee. Excellent coffee. And as it's cooling, we're 12 minutes into letting this guy cool. A lot of great flavors coming through there. That's when I score coffees too, right around 12 minutes. Okay, well, I think this is incredibly dark. Just very nostalgic coffee. I think they'll actually really like it, you know, and that's the goal. I don't need to like it. I need to create a profile at which they could be happy with it and use it for whatever their needs are. It's probably a French press. It's probably heavy cream and sugar. This is dark enough, I think, to withhold that. I don't have any cream right now, but if I did, I would want to test that for myself to just see what my potential customer is tasting. I've already roasted a couple of coffees for her, but they're just, my darkest is not her darkest. You know, not even close. So, and that's fine. You know, that's why we're going to figure it out. I'm really interested to see what her idea of dark is, so that I know for sure. We'll give her this coffee, see what she says. I get to learn my lesson of like, cool, I did a good job, or no, I didn't. I need to go back to the drawing board and really flesh out that middle phase or whatever it is. But the total roast time of 13 minutes, I kind of matched that with Bryant's roast profile that they shared with me, right? Total roast time, 12 minutes 54. I did 13. Yeah, so they got second crack about 10 seconds before it dropped. So I dropped that second crack. I was a little off. I'll give it another shot. I have this now, and thank you to them for sharing that with me. Anyway, hey, that was really long. Hope you learned something. I did. I certainly did. Very cool. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. Wow. Blueberry donut. 1,000 hands, okay? Blueberry donut. Enjoy.